Hey guys, this is Vu here. So on the news lately, there's this concept of buy, borrow, die. And a lot of people are criticizing rich people, especially the ultra wealthy, for not paying their fair share of taxes by using this. We'll see today that it's actually not a way to skip out on taxes, but it's a way to maximize net worth. So buy, borrow, die at its heart is a way for the ultra wealthy to delay paying their taxes now so that they keep their assets invested, borrow whatever they need, and so when they die, their estate pays the taxes, the interest, and the estate tax. And so we'll follow along today as I show you the math behind it and how by utilizing this concept, the ultra high net worth individuals, they're able to maximize their net worth. So let's take a look. All right, so let's say you're an NBA superstar. Your name is LeBron James, and you make $50 million a year. And you have great longevity, and you play for 30 years. So over those 30 years, you make $1.5 billion as a salary. So because you're getting a salary and you're getting paid by the owners of the Lakers, in this example, you have to pay a 37% federal tax and let's say you live in Illinois. I know he lives in California, but let's say for the sake of our example, he lives in Illinois, he has to pay a 5% state tax. So his take home is only $29 million. So he has to pay $21 million. So all in all, after a 30-year career, he has to keep $870 million of it. Now, that's a lot. That's a lot by any standards. But now let's pretend you're a billionaire. Your net worth is $1 billion and you want to spend money. You like to spend money and you want to spend $50 million a year. So rather than liquidating your stocks and having to pay capital gains taxes on it, you borrow from the bank and you borrow the bank $50 million and you find a bank that gives you a $50 million per year loan at a 3% interest rate. So which is pretty much $50 million times 3%. That's $1.5 million in interest that you're paying per year. And because you get to keep your money, let's say your money is invested in assets that bring 9% average return per year. So this times 1.09 and so basically times 1.09, 1.09. So your assets grow at 9% per year. So at the end of 30 years, you get $12.17 billion. So your $1 billion net worth becomes $12 billion if it grows 9% per year. And so let's say this $50 million, you're borrowing it every single year because you want to spend $50 million per year on goods. So this $50 million, this 1.5%, $1.5 million interest, you don't want to pay it. You'll pay it at the end of your 30-year term. And so because of that, it grows, right? So it's going to be 1 plus, that's 3%, to the 30 minus number of years. So that $1.5 million is going to grow to become $118 million after 30 years. And let's actually freeze some cells. Dollar, oh. And so your second year, you're also borrowing $50 million, but it's growing for 28 years. Your first year grows for 29 years because you don't pay interest right away. You pay interest after 1 year. So that's why it's 29, 28, 27, 26, and so on and so on. So at 30 years, it's just $50 million that you're borrowing. And so this is your principal. So your principal is going to be $1.5 billion, which is just how much you borrowed. And your interest is going to be $2.4 billion. So the interest is actually going to be more than the actual principal. And so your net worth is just this $12 billion minus principal minus interest. So that's the $8 billion. that you get to, that you get to keep. This is your net worth. And so that's really good. So now let's pretend in the other example, you have to liquidate your stocks, and instead of buy, borrow, die, you liquidate your stocks. But when you liquidate your stocks, if you're liquidating $50 million worth and you want to spend $50 million worth, you have to pay 22% capital gains tax at this level. And so you actually have to liquidate 122% of $50 million in order to spend $50 million. So you actually have to liquidate $64 million per year. All right. So let's pretend we do that. And so your $1 billion in the next year, you actually have to get this $1 billion, subtract the $64 million that you're spending, and then you're going to grow it at 9% per year. And so let's see. Yep. So the end of your this. So at the end of 30 years, you'll actually end up with only $3.5 billion. This is, and you don't owe the bank anything because you didn't borrow from the bank. So rather than having a net worth of $8 billion through buy, borrow, die, you also have to you have a $3.5 billion net worth. So this is why the ultra wealthy, they utilize buy, borrow, die rather than liquidate their stocks. Now, they also have to pay, when they die, they have to pay all the interest and the net worth. And so because of that, when they pass on their assets to the heirs, they have to pay a 40% estate tax. So this $8.3 billion, they only get to keep 60% of it. So means 0.6. So this is their final net worth for about $5 billion. For the other side, they also get to only keep 60% of it because they will be passing that to their estate, and they also have to pay a 40% estate tax on it. Estate tax. So let's actually do this times 0.4, and then this minus this. So final net worth. Final net worth. So all in all, if you were to get the net worth of the buy, borrow, die scenario and divided by the scenario where they liquidate their assets, we're talking about 2.4% the net worth. So they're saving themselves 140% of their net worth by utilizing buy, borrow, die. And so what do I think of it? I think that as long as they're paying taxes in the end, it's not so bad. So it's not like they're like not paying taxes at all. And this is assuming that they are paying the 40% estate tax. And so I feel like it might actually be good if they are paying the 40% estate tax, because they get to utilize the data, their assets, and invest it, and then at the end of their, let's say this example, the 30-year term, they're able to pay a much larger portion of their net worth to taxes, 40% of this $8 billion, than if you're to like tax them right away. So let's think about how much taxes that that society will be getting from them. So in the end, this 40% estate tax is $3.3 billion versus this $1.4 billion that that they are getting. So all in all, what do I think? I think that in the long term, the if they're paying the 40% estate tax, even at the end of their 30-year term, it's probably more beneficial for society. No, I obviously, I don't love billionaires, and I think that everyone should pay their fair share of taxes. But the reason I like it is because if the billionaire succeeds, the taxes that society will be getting is a much bigger portion. So in this scenario, the U.S. is getting this $3.3 billion estate tax versus this $1.4 billion of estate tax. So, less than half. And plus this $14 million per year, which sums up to $423 million. And so $423 million plus $1.4 billion, that's $1.8 billion. So you're still getting less taxes. I know this $14 million per year is not, in future value, but government is not very good at utilizing tax money, and so it's not the worst thing in the world. All right, guys, this is Vu, and I hope that you guys found this video insightful, and if you did, please like and subscribe. Bye, guys.